All right, getting this fired up. Just let me put the word out, just in case anybody wants to join. I'm going to get ready to get started, whether or not we get a full chat or not, because there's a lot to talk about. It hasn't even been a full week, it's only Tuesday. I really thought these Tuesday Bonnet Chronicles would just be election focused. I can't, because there's too much fuckery. Fuckery like what we're about to discuss as we take on a really sensitive topic. But if we don't talk this out, if we don't show it, if we don't open people's eyes, despite them fighting against the whole too woke thing, and oh god, arthritis, gotta be careful with that. If we don't start pointing out the problems with certain people's attitudes, we're not going to get anywhere. And I want to get started with Jane Campion's speech. I want you to hear this because this just, I'm going to highlight all the things wrong and all the reasons why non-black people especially don't need to speak over us about what she said and interpret for us what she said.
Uh, Give my love out to my fellow, the guys. The nominees. And, you know, Serena and Venus, you are such marvels. However, you do not play against the guys. Like I have to.
I like that one sister girl in the back, like
Kirsten Dunst.
I know some of you are thinking as you listen to this, oh, it's just a jab between friends. Those weren't friends. Then she went and she had to go and rush and hug Serena. And it's just like, y'all don't realize how much your microaggressions hurt, how tiring it is, how exhausting it is when people say things like, no, not that dude. Good Lord. I thought I had all these images saved. Let me see if I can just pull it up in my Twitter, cuz like white people have been off the rails, accepted apologies for us. They've been off the rails, trying to tell us that, we know you're the victims of these microaggressions, but just deal with it. Just take it, it's just your lot in life, basically. And it's tiring having people tell us how to accept this constant disrespect of our names. And like this idiot here, Jason rants on whatever radio station that nobody fucking listens to, goes on about stuff that Serena did say about being up against men in her field as a way to shut up the too woke crowd. So I want to explain to you really deeply on a personal level the issue with what Jane did, because a lot of you aren't seeing the issue with what Jane did, or worse yet, taking her apology, which was written by a PR agent, at face value. I need you to understand that we see what this is. She wanted to highlight the issue within her field, a real genuine issue of it being male dominated, being one of the few female directors nominated. She could have dinged any of those men sitting there, made them uncomfortable even. But she took her win, which she could have just highlighted her joy at winning, and made a point by throwing the black woman under the bus. She took her moment of triumph to highlight the issue with women by throwing a successful black woman under the bus, and it's fucking tiring. I want you to understand how Serena was probably feeling at that moment, because you've seen that look on her face, like, and then the smile that she had to put on, because we're taught, despite the angry black women tropes that Hollywood likes to portray, that we have to graciously take these microaggressions and just smile and act like it doesn't bother us. You see Venus just sitting there chuckling it up while some other black women are looking like, hey, this ain't a Friar's roast. This isn't like a backyard barbecue where we're doing the dozens. You did not need to bring her into the conversation. And it's funny how your PR rep had to jump to the whole, oh, you know, we know the comment was insensitive, but there's no but for that. There was no reason for that. You took a moment in your life, a moment that should have been historic for you, a moment that should have been about your joy at being able to direct the movie, to express yourself. You took your moment to shine, to take a shit on a successful black woman because you wanted to show that no matter what, you're still above her. And you're far from the only problematic person to do this. One of the things I said about Thandi and her ridiculous face-to-face video, and welcome to the chat beans, was the tone about her being upset wasn't what I was dinging. Because I get that in the war of colorism that has been a part of the culture battles we've been fighting here and abroad, I know that light-skinned black women have been feeling out of place, feeling targeted, because you have Hollywood in your ear saying, well, we got a black role for you, so we're going to put you in no matter how dark the character was historically, because you aesthetically represent what we want for black women. And then you have dark-skinned black women who are just sick of it, and light-skinned black women who want to feel black too. And I could understand Thandi on that point. What I didn't understand was her tropes of, I'm sorry for stealing your men. And unless she was talking to women like me who happen to be dating a white man, and, you know, hopefully I don't have to worry about that, Thandi, since you're a man stealer all of a sudden. You are definitely not talking to black women the way you should. You don't come correct because you disrespect us too. And a lot of people do that. And we're sick of it. And it doesn't matter what our income level is. It doesn't matter what our strides are. We are constantly reminded by your micro and macro aggressions that we are somehow less than. You got those idiots like before, like this guy, telling us that our words are too woke. Too woke. It's too woke to say that Jane took something that should have been a highlight of her career and ruined it with her own racist microaggressions. And Serena and Venus are going to be expected to be, you know, benign about it, act like it doesn't bother them, act like they don't care about this, as once again it erodes at our core. And then you have a lot of white people who are so willing to accept Jane's PR delivered apology. Say, look, she hugged her. And ignore the fact that Serena looked whole ass uncomfortable at that side hug. Hey, Solomon Owl, thanks for the lurk. It just troubles me how many people will take such a serious microaggression and try to downplay it. And it has been a week of fuckery. I mean, honestly speaking, I went off because I was tired at this point. That Jane Compton thing came on the heels of the last Bonnet Chronicles, where I had to ding people for the acceptance of fuckery and their role in fuckery. And then you have these people who just don't get it. I had a whole list of things that I wanted to say to white people about not wanting to be infantized. But now I realize, especially after talking to Greg and running it by him, some of you really do want me to talk to you like you are children. And if I have to explain to you what I mean when I say your demographic is causing the issue, and the only thing you can take away from that is, I feel bad. You can't talk to me like that. You're part of the freaking problem. Let's see if I can show this set of images, because it's in really in chapters. I edited out the person's name because I don't want people attacking them. I need people to understand that when I make these commentaries, it is not for people to dogpile on this person. I unfollowed them after this exchange because it's just exhausting to constantly repeat myself with them. First, it talks about how my dread to white women to talk about how, historically speaking, y'all have not been good allies to us black women. We need you to get your shit together. She responds with how it makes her feel sad. I don't know what to tell her. My words are supposed to make you reflect. If it makes you feel sad, I'm sorry. But the goal is for you to understand how collectively your demographic harms us all. And that there are ways that you can break that cycle, thus joining the sisterhood, because we need y'all. We need to work together to make things better for everybody. But you got these people that think they can't uncenter themselves. So then she outright blames me. Oh, wait, that's not it. Let me get this image up. She outright freaking blames me for her issue. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to leave that other tweet up because I need to respond to that guy too. Because white guys thought they were out of the woodwork too. But she went from my words made her sad to I directly blamed her for what I was saying. Now, I know that a lot of white people are not used to feeling monolith. It makes you feel uncomfortable that people are looking at people that look like you a certain way. But like black women have had to say, not all of us to ourselves, because most people don't listen to us. We've just accepted that people will have perceptions of us until we've earned the right to not have those perceptions. Some of you don't want to do that work, and it shows. Like this man really made me have white men catch it in Twitter today, because so many of them jumped onto the whole idea that, oh yeah, white women bad. Let me jump in with my white male perspective. And this one was responding to a friend of mine talking about there's been 2 women in the Oscar for Best Director. Pretty oppressive category, isn't it? Yeah, you're not an ally there, buddy. And when you retort, she was talking to 2 human beings instead of 2 black women, but yes, why? She was talking to 2 black women to shit on them. What did she say that was wrong? This is the biggest nonsense outrage I've ever seen. Fuck you, dude. For real. Like, I cannot stress harder that you need to shut the fuck up. All the way the fuck up. The problem with white men that try to do shit like this and twist the narrative and change the topic and try to go, well, it's 2 human beings. Funny you would say that. Because in this country especially, women like Venus and Serena, women like me, wouldn't have been considered human for a very long time. But when we try to teach y'all that, oh, it's CRT. We can't talk about that. That hurts my feelings. What my ancestors did hurt my feelings. And instead of me learning from that, I would rather, stay, don't be too woke. Y'all are fucking annoying. But to try to shut down what black women are saying about how Jane was out of pocket, out of line with her comment during what should have been a happy moment in her career, which if she wanted to highlight the issue like you tried to bring up to try to shut down black voices, but it ain't gonna work this time because we can multitask, buddy. When you try to make it where it's like, well, the issue is this, you're part of the issue. But unlike like Jane, and unlike Serena, who's just there minding her best black business, you decided to try to shift away from something that we can blatantly see, that racist microaggression that took the topic from being about the misogyny that keeps other women from winning Best Director and elevates that rivalry that doesn't even really exist for black women, because we know that in this world, the plantation princesses are always going to beat us out. And if this hurts your feelings, if you think what I'm saying is a personal attack on you, you need to check yourself. Because I'm talking about the attitude that you're better than us, that no matter how much we succeed, we're still below you. That's what Jane did to 2 very accomplished sisters. 2 sisters who had to fight racism, sexism, and all the bigotry in a field that they did not want two little black girls to succeed in. That is why that movie, King Richard, had to be made, because it was the love of their father and their confidence that made them succeed. They looked radiant that night at that award show, and I think Jane was feeling a certain sort of way. A bit unnerved from being nominated, maybe a couple of hits of the booze, but she saw how radiant, joyful these two young ladies were, how they were no longer going to be silenced in these circles. And people loved them, and she just had to get her ding in. Honey, you just won a freaking award for your work, and you couldn't even be joyful about that. That's why you will never be like us. And that is why the sisterhood, as I want it to be, can't be right now. Because we cannot trust your demographic to have our backs. We cannot trust your demographic to not look down on us. Exactly. They wanted that movie to fail because it spits in the face of what the role of a father is, who belongs in tennis. They didn't want to see their ugly. And that is another thing. This demographic has a very bad, they don't like the reality. Everything's got to be written to coddle their feelings. That's why that lady literally wrote a play about Emmett Till's death, and I'm not going to let this go because it hurts. In the vein of a white woman that feels bad. Because she couldn't just write the story of Mamie going down there, getting her son's body, showing his disfigurement to the world so that we could see the power of what hate does to our bodies. She couldn't not decenter herself. And centering ourselves is the issue. And then when we call it out, oh no, you're being too woke. No, we can't have that. We can't have you focusing on the actual problem. I want you to make me feel good about it. And I am saying this with all due respect. Fuck your feelings. I'm not here to coddle your feelings. I know historically speaking, that might have been my ancestors' job, as you've cried over the unfairness of the world, as you've done nothing and got rich off our backs and labors. But to act like we owe you our grace when you fucking step on us is exhausting. And I'm telling you, as a black woman, I have been in the vein of where Serena and Venus are with the microaggressions, where you are the only one of you in the space of other people and having to just smile and graciously act like it's not bothering you, while inside it's like, really? When am I going to be enough? When is it going to be enough for us to be successful, to be gracious, to be humble, to still shine, and not have some white lady come along and say, oh no, not good enough. I responded to some lady earlier today. Let me see if I can pull that up before I transition the screen. Because she really rattled me with her thing about VP Harris. And I get it. I was just on a talk show with an amazing guy, T. Biggs, about how some people talk shit about Senator Harris, then Senator Harris, now VP Harris. And while some of it can be used as constructive criticism, most of it's misogynoir. And there's a reason why people call this out. And thank you. Welcome to the chat, G. Feldman. But you have these women that say the most horrible things about us. Like we're not allowed to have joy. And this lady, just the stuff they say to us. She says, why can't all women make statements about the would-be our VP, female VP? I don't like her schoolgirl giggles. And it's like, if she doesn't smile enough, she's not good enough. If she smiles too much, it's too much. Your inner misogyny clock is running. And then when we call you out, oh, I'm not being racist. I said all women. But it's only your demographic that has the most problems with Kamala Harris's joy. And it's like you want everybody to just be sourpusses. And it's like I said, I put in my thread and I meant it. I get that you are raised from the cradle to just embrace that toxicness. You're in houses where the balance of power is shifted towards the males. The females take out the aggression in other ways. And you have learned that passive aggressive bitchiness and the fear of being ostracized by your white peers so internally that you refuse to understand how problematic that attitude is. And it's got to stop. Black women are not your enemy, but if you come at us sideways, we can be. And us clapping back at you isn't to make you just feel bad. It's to make you understand the road that you're damaging, the lane that you like to swerve in and act like you can drive down it. Act like you can navigate a road you've never really been on because you've dealt with sexism, but you haven't dealt with the racism and the sexism. One of the things I like to bring up, because this is a dear friend of mine that said this. I love her to death, but I had to check her once. And this is something that black women do to you if we're your friends. We will check you lovely because we consider you close enough to call friends. We should be able to say when you fuck up and step in it with us. We were having a serious talk about racial stuff because the last few years, especially in America, has been very tense for those of us in both multi-ethnic relationships and those of us with multi-ethnic friends. She brought up her thoughts on women being the first slaves. I get the point she was trying to make, even though every brain cell of mine record skipped, and I let her talk. And then I let her have it. Because I understand the point she was making on a historical perspective about how women didn't get a choice in things, how they were married off, whether it was against their will at times, how they don't have a say in their house, but it is very different to what chattel slaves in America and the Caribbean and South America went on. The transatlantic slave trade stripped our humanity. Women were still allowed to be human beings. They weren't treated right, and I will always agree with that. Historically speaking, we have allowed some fuckery done to us in the name of supposedly being fairer, and that only applied to white women. But when I say to you, you cannot tell the descendant of actual slaves that, oh no, women were the first slaves, so, and like dismiss the reality and the horrors of chattel slavery. This is why we can't be allies. This is why our friendships fracture. Because when we push back, now not my friend, I'm glad that I made friends with real people that when they say stuff like this, I can counter it, and it's not a matter of, well, I just can't talk to you anymore. My feelings are hurt. Unlike some of you followers who you follow me because you like one thing I say, and then the moment I get real about something else, and you feel like that bullseye hit, or like I stepped on your foot with an observation, y'all are quick to tell me and tell on yourself. And what I need you to understand is when I push back against what you say, it's because the way you come across when we talk is, well, I get that what you're going through is bad and what your ancestors went through is bad, but let's center how I feel on this topic, because that's the only way I can view this topic. I can't use empathy for what you're going through without seeing it as I'm the victim too. And that's a problem. Because I can listen to people's stories. I can amplify people's voices without having to insert my pain over it. But anytime I talk about my pain, I have to do so in a way that coddles y'all's feelings, and it's exhausting. I want to bring up this video, this video on YouTube of Naomi Osaka, because it breaks my heart. This young lady is just so talented, and the shit she goes through, it's just insane to me. And I just want y'all to see what we are talking about when we say the shit gets to us, and this is a shortened clip. My friend VC Murphy showed this earlier.
Tennis star Naomi Osaka was brought to tears by a heckler during her match against Veronika Kudermetova in Indian Wells. The female heckler reportedly yelled, "Naomi, you really suck," multiple times from the crowd.
Exactly, G. Feldman.
The Japanese star, who was suffering from mental health issues, broke down immediately after the incident and approached the chair umpire requesting her to take necessary action against the heckler. But the umpire could not do anything, as it was not known who exactly the heckler was. So Naomi asked for the umpire's microphone to address the crowd, but her request was denied, saying it is against the rules of the game. Later, after the end of the match, Naomi explained that she had watched a video of Venus and Serena Williams getting heckled at the same place in 2001, and when the same thing happened to her at the same place, she just couldn't control her emotion. Naomi left the court after congratulating the winner of the match, Veronika Kudermetova.
And see, the thing that bothers me the most about that thing is it was just another girl narrating, and oh my gosh, it's still playing. Let me stop that. Good Lord, I am so like a boomer when it comes to this technology. No jokes, no dinging boomers. I love y'all, y'all know it. But for real, the thing that bothered me about that versus the one VC had, because it was more of a focus on Naomi's pain than that talk over. She cried to the press saying, look, I was here. My match versus Serena the last time, and the heckling was awful. And it doesn't matter how many people cheer for me, I'm going to hear that racially derogatory remark. And the tennis world is still not protective of women or women of color as it is. And it's shameful that we cannot thrive in spaces that we do well in because you don't want us there. And you make it clear you don't want us there. And then even when we're superstars in it, you try to make it go, well, more of us love you, so ignore that heckler. And sometimes you just can't. I love so many of the connections I've made online, writing and sharing things, but every day I am inundated with fuckery. And for all of those people I block, there's always that person that makes me go, why would you say this? What do you get? What joy do you get out of making somebody feel miserable about their looks, about their racial background? And it gets to you. You could say to a person who takes on hate all the time to rise above it, but sometimes it drags you down because you're constantly dealing with these people. And instead of telling these people to stop being awful, you would rather ding me for feeling hurt and upset by it. And they just don't get that. You gotta stop telling black women to carry the emotional load. Y'all are breaking us. It is exhausting taking on the hate. And it comes from all sides when you're a black woman. And I'm not saying that to say other women don't go through hate. But what kills me about that is we can do multitasking. We can talk about our issues and y'all's. But the moment we only talk about our issues, you tell us, no, you got to center us too. Even though we can't center you in the specific path of pain. Because even though you understand the blatant ignorance of sexism, there's just that added level when you add the racism to it that only we know. That other women of color might feel in other ways, but they don't go through half the shit we do because they're white adjacent. They have features that people think are exotic and sexually desirable. They haven't gone through their lives being told, oh, you look older. We will sexually fetishize you, but you're not beautiful enough to star in your own movies about your own ancestors. You're not beautiful enough to grace on magazine covers back in the day. Don't think about winning beauty pageants until fucking the 80s. Even though beauty pageants have been around and called American beauty pageants for years, you know. We have lived in a country where even our own men have told us that our value and worth are lower than every other demographic. So when I am expressing my pain about this, that I cannot center some of you along with it, It is not to say your pain doesn't exist. It is to say that right now I'm talking about my issue, something that I've lived, something that is emotionally, spiritually draining me, and that I need you to just listen and hear and be there. I don't need you to lead the conversation. I don't need you to jump over in the lane. I just need you to ride alongside me and understand that you will never understand what this is like. It don't matter if you date us. It don't matter if you're BFFs with us. The moment you try to speak over us about our lived experience, I know you're not in this for the right reason. The moment you pause what we're saying about your demographic to go, no, this hurts me, instead of, I need to see, I need to check myself and see if I am doing these harmful things. I need to be a better person. And yes, it's painful to think about what the rest of the people that look like me are doing, but that's not me. So I need to work on making sure that it doesn't be me. And instead, I get not all. Even today, as I ding white men for parachuting in on my thread to white women to try to, get their cookie and pat on the head. Because y'all are the root of the problem. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. Welcome to the chat, Terry Antico. And it's true. The whole idea of denying what we see, what we experience, what we go through is just a way to preserve the fuckery, because some of you benefit from it. And you just don't want to admit it, and I get it. Nobody wants to admit that you benefit from bad things. But the fact of the matter is, for some of you, equality feels like it would be the end of the world for you. Having an equal playing field where you can't use your identity to get ahead of people, where you can't move to neighborhoods where only people look like you, thus creating cliques and hierarchies where you can ease people out depending on how much they like you or you like them. The system that you want us to keep upholding is not structurally sound. And those of us who call it out get shouted down and being too woke or hurting your feelings. And as grown people, I'm not even talking to white children, because a lot of your children are way smarter about how fucked up things are than some of you adults are. I'm talking to white people who are my age, especially and older, who want to be infantized, who want only to hear things in a way that's more palatable. You realize how damaging that is? I am trying to talk about the realities of racism and bigotry. I am trying to bring up the sexism that we cannot keep overlooking, that is damaging our young girls' spirits. I am talking to you white women about how from the fucking cradle, you are raised to hold water for toxic patriarchy, and it's damaging y'all. These assholes will fucking chase you while you are young kids, marry you up, abuse the fuck out of you, and then kill you if you dare leave them. It is a toxic cycle that we have to be the ones to break. And if you want to break it, you have to understand the conditioning that they do to you from early on, whether it's in the church, whether it's in your social circles, to just accept some role that holds you back. Why is it that white women are distracted from knowledge? And the only ones allowed to be smart are the ones that hold water for the patriarchy harder. They love an intellectual sounding woman that continues that toxic bullshit. But let a woman say, I want to be smart for me, and I don't really need a man, but it's nice to have one as a partner if that's what I'm into, or I want a partner that's like me. Then it's the end of the world for them, because that grip of control slips. And men, y'all know that this is not sustainable. And you see real live dumbasses refusing to vax and mask up to keep themselves safe, that are loud, wrong bigots that are literally siding with a despot in Russia because they would rather hold on to that toxic patriarchal fuckery. And if this isn't you, instead of jumping into my mentions to go, not all, I'm on your side, black woman, but until I say something that dings you, it just kills me how many of you can't just listen, can't just say, what you said might have hurt my feelings, but I need to think on it. Instead of getting defensive, instead of arguing with you about your reality, instead of arguing against my reality, the shit I've seen, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to work to break those toxic barriers that don't benefit any of us. Whether you're male or female, these toxic roles that our society puts on us can no longer sustain. And I know that to a red-blooded American conservative, what I'm saying is dangerous and being too woke. But if being asleep is letting yourselves die of a preventable disease, being illiterate and looking ridiculous, electing a literal predator, then I'd rather be too woke. If that's your new insult, I'll take it. I've been called worse. But what we're not going to do is continue to act like this shit can't be pointed out. It has to be. And it's not to say I don't want I want white women on my team. Some of my closest friends happen to be white women. But I'm tired of having to think only that they are the majority when I know that's not the case. For every white woman I've befriended, I've actually had to end the friendships because they've either pushed upon me, overstepped boundaries that they shouldn't cross, or couldn't take any pushback. And I get that dealing with somebody blunt, dealing with somebody who refuses to coddle your fingers, and thank you for the subscription, is rough for some of you. But if you want real friendship that will help you, be friends with a black woman and be ready for when you do step out of line. And it's not because we hate you, it's because we love and care about you that we do come and correct your asses if you step out of line. If we don't, that is when we know that we don't view you on that same level of friendship. If I'm wearing that mask of, oh, that's nice, and I don't check you, we're not friends. And that is point blank serious. And I don't care if we're work friends. I don't care if we have a relationship. The person I told you about that women were slave things is a dear friend of mine. We're working together on editing my book. But the thing is, you cannot just say that to somebody who's an actual descendant of slaves and a history nerd and not be checked. And the thing is, I was waiting after we had that conversation for the friendship to end, for me to have to look for a new editor, because it's the same song and dance a lot of times with white women. They want so hard to play the role if they're not seriously in it. And they hate when you shine a light on them and show you can't wear that mask of inclusion and then on the side keep up the fuckery. Those who are really in it understand that even if they step in it, their heart is still in the right place. They're not trying to make excuses. They apologize and they keep it moving. But too many of y'all are willing to accept apologies for people who step in it and not understand that it is not your place to do that. Like the Whoopi situation, as much as I wanted to have people just forget about what she said, I realized right off the bat I needed to check myself on that attitude. Because what she said was ignorant and she learned. She was educated about it. ABC had every right to penalize her in the way they saw fit because what she said harmed people. And it was not my place as a black woman to accept her apology on behalf of Jewish people. And we have to start being real about that because anti-Semitism is leaking. One of the things I want to bring to your attention is Michael McFaul's bullshit. His nonsense really chafed me this week. I'm going to get the screen cap of his nonsense up there. Both of them, because it was some garbage. Let me change this up, because his stuff was just like, why would you tweet that? Oh my goodness, no, not that. Let me put this picture down. Let me get that out the way. Grab this quote right here, because he lied so much these last few days, and I just want you to see the tweet he deleted on top of the tweet that got him in trouble. And it was the Maddow blog, which from what I heard is being, her show has been hosted by Ari Velshi lately, who I didn't have much of a problem with, but he has had some problematic takes that I don't watch MSNBC anymore. I refuse to give them any ratings or views. So this guy, who's a former ambassador, made this asinine video, where he literally said the difference between Putin and Hitler is that Hitler didn't kill ethnic Germans, which made me go off in the video, because even if I wasn't a history nerd, even if I only had remedial level history knowledge, and welcome to the chat, Full Faye. Even if I didn't have full history knowledge of the Holocaust and beyond, that sentiment is dangerous. It's dangerous to Jewish people. It's dangerous to people who still don't even know the Holocaust. But Mr. McFaul had a tweet asking for a reference and citation, and then took it down and tried to double down on how he didn't do anything wrong. And that is the problem when you don't check these people on their asshole is, because they'll act like they did absolutely nothing wrong, as he literally used the same justifications that Hitler used to legally exterminate, handicap, LGBT, people of Romani descent, and Jewish German citizens who he just happened to strip their citizenship before he destroyed their lives. It is troubling that somebody who assumed the role of an ambassador, who MSNBC had no problem having on twice that day, could utter such bullshit. And I know Putin is evil. I reference to him to be more like Napoleon. They both have the military background, that wannabe emperor vibe. There are plenty of historical white male despots that you could pick from. I know Hitler's the most popular because he was the most horrific. But what we're not going to do is historic revisionism. To say that Hitler didn't kill ethnic Germans devalues the life of all the ethnic Germans that were slaughtered by the Nazis. And like I said, I will remind you that handicapped Germans, Jewish Germans, Romani Germans, and LGBTQ Germans. But on top of that, any German intellectuals, whether they were doctors or scientists or teachers that refused to follow the Third Reich, died under Hitler's orders. And for American education to push this kind of ignorance, it is just so exhausting. It's no problem, G Filming. It just bothers me that people don't realize how this opens the door to anti-Semitism. And I don't have to be a Jewish citizen to see that hate parallel worming its way into our society. And like I said, the problem with Hitler was that everything he did was legal. What Putin's doing in his own country is considered legal. That's why you're not seeing tons of protests in Russia, even though Russian citizens are not down with this fucking act of aggression. Because he is a bully that intimidates and arrests and tortures people who dare stand up to him. And he legally gets away with it in his country. And what I don't want happening in our country is that distinction of ethnically this and ethnically that. Because ethnically speaking, a lot of you can't claim ethnic American, because there's no such thing. We are a literal melting pot. But the way people took his apology, which wasn't a real apology, he had to delete a portion of it because he knew he stepped in it, is the fact that there are a lot of Americans who still don't understand the parallels of the Holocaust and having leaders in place that see certain Americans as unworthy, can classify certain Americans as undesirable, and literally set up abandoned Walmarts as fucking camps for those who came seeking asylum. We were one step beyond repeat and some historical horrors. And I don't want to see us going down that road. You do not want to be the American citizen that has to be paraded through a concentration camp like German citizens had to go through after World War II. Don't push us towards that by denying the realities of history. And Michael McFaul is old enough to know better. He has no excuse, and he shouldn't be on Twitter asking us for citation of this. It's all there. There's historical records of everybody the Nazis targeted. And while, yes, you could say Putin is hurting people who originally came from Russia. You can even say that because of Ukraine used to be a part of the Soviet Union, he's attacking his people. But to ever put it in the vein of ethnic this and ethnic that, as if you're classifying, there are people in the Ukraine that came from other countries that became citizens of that country because they wanted to be a part of it. There are students that came from Africa there to study. Nobody deserves the brunt of those airstrikes, the blow of having their homes destroyed and hollowed out by fucking bombs. So maybe get off the leans of paralleling Putin to anybody but Putin. Because in historical context, he's already on his own level of awful. And if you're going to compare him to somebody from back in World War II that was awful and horrible to the Russian people, Stalin's a really good place to look. I know that FDR was fooled by him for a bit. I know that history is finally now waking up to the atrocities that Stalin caused. But if you need anybody to compare Vladimir Putin to, you don't have to look too far there. And you don't have to bring up Hitler. And you don't have to downplay the lives of all the Germans that he destroyed. And you really need to stop classifying German Jewish citizens as anything but German citizens. Because that kind of language, while you think is just benign, it's bigotry. And it was used to justify why people could call in on them, watch them round it up, knowing what was going to happen. You can't tell me that the people that called because they were jealous or called because they really bought into this will make Germany great again. You can't turn your back on your own fellow citizens because you think they're less than, and then act surprised when the despot just kills them off. Some of you think you're fooling us as you try to act like you're the good guys. One of the things I've seen in the arguments against people like me calling him out, no, he's one of the good guys. Good guys don't call people who were murdered in the Holocaust non-ethnic Germans. That's not a good guy. It just frustrates me that you're more angry at me pointing out that he was not only historically inaccurate, but dangerously wrong and anti-Semitic, but not the fact that he is there espousing that anti-Semitism. Not the fact that he is literally crapping on several German walks of life that was snuffed out by the Nazis' hate. And not on my watch. Because like I tell people all the time, I am a proud history nerd. I might not have gotten a degree in it because my family talked me out of it, told me, oh, there's no money in it. It didn't stop me from continuing to study, pursue every bit of knowledge I could. I think people need to understand that history is so needed because we keep repeating these cycles of unnecessary hate and aggression. We keep rewarding the bad people and telling the good people that their kindness is a weakness. We say, oh, we need to be more like this party that literally denies fact and reason, but can steal votes. And that's the part we like. We want a dictatorship, but just one that's more palatable to us. We want to say things like BLM and that your lives matter, but the moment you hurt our feelings, we're taking that allyism away. We're not on the same team anymore. You don't stand the same person I stand, even though the person I stand has lied and caused issue. We want you to like the way we like because this is a clique, right? And then when we tell them no, this is reality. We can't afford to play these games. Oh, you're too woke. It hurts my feelings. I don't like you anymore. Bye. I mean, honestly speaking, I cannot keep friendships with people who put their feelings over facts anymore. Welcome to the Chat or Caniverse. And exactly, Terry Antica. But what's worse yet is those who not only drive the wedge trying to back the person saying something divisive, but tell the people who are naturally upset and offended by it that, oh no, we're being too sensitive. Oh no, we're dinging the wrong person. You don't want us to talk about the problem. You don't want us to acknowledge the problem. The problem is not going away, but you ding us for talking about it. You make the problem us seeing the problem, and it's like this, it's not sustainable. You can't accept an apology on somebody who is microaggressed with their bigotry anymore. I don't accept Jane, I think her name Compton's apology. I don't accept her PR reps try to damage control. I don't accept that forced hug she placed on the Williams sister. I want her to understand that she took a moment of joy, of something that she should have embraced. And instead of making the point she wanted to make, she took a time to jab at a successful black woman. Because for her, it wasn't enough of a pinnacle to win in a field that was dominated by men. She had to show that she was better than those Williams sisters. And that is racist. And that is a microaggression that so many of us have had to go through. And I get that she wanted to make a point about the male-driven category, but you could have dinged every other male director in that if you really wanted to make your point across. But for so many women, we are taught to just be nasty to one another, to try to get that princess protection. And for black women, we've never had that. So it's really easy for us to see it and call it out. And we do it because we know that despite you feeling protected, that shit is killing y'all. And we just want you to see the toxic before it snuffs you out. And instead we get, oh no, nope, that hurts my feelings the way you said that. I am just going to snuggle up in my toxic patriarchy created bubble. And I don't know how to pop it anymore. I don't know if I even want to pop it anymore. The more I write this current story I'm working on, the more I'm like, I want this world. I want a world where we all just look alike so that, you know, while we might still have problems with certain people, it'll be less of, I think I'm better than you because I lack a certain pigment. Or I think I'm better than you because I have a certain pigment. Because bigotry exists in every single ethnicity, but racism is a different microcosm. And I think people need to understand the difference. Bigotry is a preconceived notion about a person's gender or ethnic background outside of blackness that makes you think that you're either better than them, or there's a model type of them, or you can fetishize them and talk down to them. Bigotry does exist. LGBT go through bigotry on levels that are just as violent as black people, and they're feeling laws being created to restrict their right to life, which we need to push against as black people because we've known what that felt like. And what I need people to understand is when I say something is racist, I mean it is structurally so condoned that people don't even realize what they're doing is racist anymore. It has been so normalized to look at black joy and black success in the vein of, I could take that down a peg. I could put them in their place. Because you still want us to feel below you. And that is something we need you to work on. Because we want that even playing field. The evenness is not going to cancel you out. We're not saying let us take over and make you suffer. We're saying we just want the opportunity to be too. We want to feel like American citizens too, whether we serve or whether we just exist here. We want our place at the table and not as the servants to it. And if you feel this and you understand this, we just need you to stand with us. And sometimes we just need you to listen. Don't talk over us and ingest what we're saying about your demographic. If it's not you directly, you shouldn't feel the need to defend it. Because I wanted to ask that lady, But I was at my patience level. I was just like, nope, I'm just going to unfollow them. I didn't block them this time. I just needed to cut them from my circle of followers because I can't take that level anymore. But I just wanted to know, where in her mind does she take me calling out the attitudes of white women? Not her directly, but collectively, from their attitudes, from just that interview with that one weird lady who is pro Putin and Xi Jinping and all the dictators of the current world. How are you defending that? How are you ignoring the fact that your demographic in both 2016 and 2020 voted against us again for a literal predator? How are you telling me to ignore the problematic tiers that have caused lynching, that have been used against us in the office? I tell people all the time, one of the things that really opened my eyes was a friend of mine, former friend, got me a job as a bookkeeper. I started dressing nicely for the office job because that's what you're supposed to do. I got a bunch of compliments. Here she comes because she didn't do that. After I was like, look, you can just go to Lane Bryant. We're both big women, you know. It's not hard to get a nice dress or suit from there. And she told the boss I was aggressive towards her. I had never insulted her in my life. I was grateful that she helped me get the job. But because she didn't like my very real comment that, you know, if you're upset with the fact that I dress nice, because I think the snarky comment she made was, oh, look at you looking all fancy for the bosses. I was like, I'm looking fancy for me. I work in the office. I want to look the part. And she said I was aggressive. And she cried. And I ended up transferred. And it just hit me that it was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't aggressive. I wish I had been at that point. But she knew she could turn on the tears and make it seem like I was the one that hurt her. And it still hurts to this day because it made me realize that sometimes people will call you their friends, but it's only to see what benefit they can get out of that friendship. And sometimes a white woman will look you in the face, and the moment you look like you're doing better than her, stab you right in your back. And I don't want to see that anymore because I know it's not all of you, but there's enough of you doing it to where we cannot ignore it anymore. Because like I said, even though I see the issue, I see how your demographic is targeted by this bullshit, how it snuffs you out, it's still not enough for some of you to open your eyes to why this fuckery cannot continue. And until you open your eyes to how devalued your situation is, how little your voice carries in your own home, thus giving you that angry personality that you take out on people outside the house, we're not going to get anywhere. You would much rather rally about being called Karen, unless your name is Karen, which I can kind of understand. I would hate if my name was synonymous with all the angry, racist tropes of white women. But unless your name is actually Karen, the problem isn't the name. The problem is the attitude that gave you the classification of being a Karen. And if you're not willing to tackle that problem, you are part of that problem. Because it's not about being mocked. I have lived my life being called racial slurs, being called all kinds of slurs based on my size, and everything else. I just take it as a person doing it is a lowlife. You can't help being called Karen. Don't be a Karen. It really isn't that hard. Don't be that, I gotta center myself despite this not being about me. I gotta let a whole bunch of people call me out on social media and beyond before I realize I'm stepping in it. And still, that's after doubling and tripling down. That TikTok lady literally doxed a black creator to try to prove her point. And then she got called out by the maker of the shirt. And I have to amend the last Bonnet Chronicles. It was a black doula who helps with birth that created that stolen breast milk shirt. And I still say it's tacky. That's just my opinion on it. But she asked the woman to take that tweet down and got a whole bunch of angriness from that woman's fans. And this is why we say we can't trust y'all as allies right now. You've got to earn that trust because you took what should have been a teachable moment for you and you sick your fans on the creator of that shirt. That woman got a whole bunch of hate for something you did for clicks and views. The performativeness got to stop. The self-reflection needs to start. It is beyond time, and we cannot afford to keep going this route. We can't afford for you to act like we don't see that you say BLM in your bio, but the moment black voices talk, and the moment black voices talk in a way that you don't feel centered or your feelings don't feel coddled, you push back. You don't want to hear the problem if it doesn't make you feel good. And I'm sorry, these problems don't make us feel good. These problems put our lives in danger. So maybe not. I don't listen to other people's pain and say, you know what, I need to take the focus off what you're saying and make it about me. Too many of you do that. And I watch you do it, especially the black women, that I've watched you do it to people who call out anti-Semitism. I've watched you do it to people who've called out the homophobia. Y'all got to get it together. We cannot sustain this bullshit as a society anymore. We are fracturing. I am watching these frayed, tattered edges of these people that want to hold on to this traditional fuckery, and it's not good for any of us. And she didn't, G. Feldman. That's the problem. I know that in creating a shirt like that, a lot of white people will want to buy it to support the creator, but maybe not. And I don't want to cut homegirl's ends and cut her business thing, but sometimes we make shirts for our own to really put out there something provocative. It is not meant for some white girl on TikTok to wear, to point selfie style at herself on Twitter, and then not understand how black women are going, that's not it. It's Women's History Month. You're a woman, and I'm sure you have ancestral women that you could have talked about without bringing up our generational trauma. And what bothers me is that the people that accepted her apology, which really wasn't an apology, and she deleted the whole chain of stuff, she might have even ethered her own account, is the fact that it wasn't y'all's place to take that apology. We were saying that that shirt wasn't in the right vein. Yeah, it's Women's History Month. You have Gloria Steinem, just to name off the top of my head, Hillary Clinton. Plenty of historical white women that you could have highlighted to kick off Women's History Month. You would have got the same amount of likes and clicks, maybe even more, because Hillary's been on fire. I love that sassy tweet she made towards the Russians because they can't keep her name out of their mouth. There are plenty of ways to highlight women's history without shitting on black women's pain, and this young lady just didn't get it. And then she had a few black women who I don't even want to know if they were friends of hers or not, because I don't think they were. I think black friends probably told her that ain't it. I think there are people that see those TikTok numbers and see that alleged fame on social media, want that adjacency to it, and go, oh no, you know, I'm going to stand up for her. And then she uses them when the majority of us are saying that ain't it. And you've got to start listening to the majority of black voices. If a large group of black women especially say, that ain't it, we're not trying to hurt your feelings. We're trying to prevent you from losing your job. Because it wasn't us, but a white woman that was like, you know, okay, I'm going to do what you do, Miss TikTok. And found out that she was a certified, I think, not doula level, but she helps with nursing and breastfeeding. And now they're going after her job. And I think that's why her socials got scrubbed. So maybe stop doing the fuck around and find out, because you should find out the hard way how karma exists. You know? Exactly. She made her whole career doing that, though. She like searched out a person where they worked and stuff. And it's like, you know, you're not the only one that can do that. And like I said, it wasn't us black women. All we wanted to do was educate you on how that hurts us. Sometimes white women will turn that caller manager energy right against you and show you how it feels. So it's like I said, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, y'all. I appreciate this. I just want people to think, on these racial blunders, on these historical blunders, on this insensitivity that we keep giving a pass. And when I say we, you know who I mean. I know it's not anybody in this chat. I know it's not people who are really working hard to undo some of the anti stuff. I've said it all the time. My path to anti-racism meant shedding all the misogynistic stuff I had to learn, all the anti-LGBT stuff I had to learn, and all the anti-blackness I had to learn. And it's not 100%. It is a constant work in progress. And if that is not how you're approaching life, you're not ready for this conversation. And if you want to get ready, you need to be prepared for some harsh truths about yourself. Because it's the only way you are going to shed that toxic grip of bigotry, is to understand what you used to condone, what you used to be pro about, and what you no longer want to be about. And I'm hopeful, because there are a lot more of us that do understand the power of moving away from that life. But there are still far too many people that feel coddled by the toxic structure, even as it's crumbling underneath us, even as we are seeing a rise of idiocracy, basically. And if you haven't seen that movie, please watch it, because it feels like it's a documentary at this point. I know it's supposed to be a comedy, but it is tragic how stupid society is getting. But I'm going to wrap this up. I will be back on Friday, and then hopefully I will be back on Sunday. Last Sunday, I was just tired. We had no power for hours here in the freezing winter, and I just did not have the energy to game. But hopefully, the storms are done for a bit, and we'll have power, and we'll be able to have a normal week of content and stuff. I really do appreciate you guys in the chat. Thank you so much, everybody who tunes in. And I will definitely be back on Friday. But for now, I'm going to go make dinner, get the guys settled, and I'll be back on social media a little bit later. Thank you all so much. I love y'all, and I will see you soon.